Hi, everybody. I am going to be away for a couple weeks. I'm going to Europe for the first time since March of 2020 to do some teaching and training. So there'll be a little break from my videos. And I wanted to respond to a request today from a subscriber who wanted me to talk about shame and guilt, how these affects are understood and how they are worked with both in Istdp and APT, which is affect phobia therapy that was developed by Lee McCullough. And I'm really glad someone asked this question because often people throw emotion-focused treatments in the same bin. They think, oh, they're all pretty similar. And while they may look that way at times, they have very different theoretical foundations and also, I think, different goals. So Istdp is based on psychoanalytic theory, the theory of unconscious emotional conflicts. And since most of our patients' symptoms and suffering, we would consider the result of defenses against anxiety-provoking feelings, we want to get to those feelings to bring them to consciousness, right, where they can be experienced, tolerated, and integrated, right? We want people to be able to experience and integrate all their complex mixed feelings, and particularly to get in touch with guilt over rage toward loved ones. In Istdp, we often think about shame as defensive. Shame is often overgeneralized. I just feel bad about myself. I'm a jerk. I'm an idiot, right? So as you can see, this kind of blanket self-attack is harmful and is essentially defensive against the specific acts, right, of omission or commission that actually gave rise, right, to, it could be both, shame and guilt. I think about shame as being a feeling about the self. I've let myself down. I am ashamed of myself because I behaved in a way that violates my own principles and values. But again, it is specific. I did something specifically. And that's tied to being able to also feel guilty about the impact of that on others so that I could make some kind of repair attempt, right? But in any case, these affects are self-corrective, right? They really help us feel, whoops, I am going in the wrong direction. I'm about to do something that I really don't feel good about. And so hopefully I could avert that altogether. But if you actually do something that you have shame and guilt about, again, the healthy way to deal with that is to readjust and make a repair. Now, APT, affect phobia, is based on learning theory. And so that's much more the sense that one simply learns to be anxious or ashamed of certain thoughts, feelings, actions, and then they inhibit or suppress that action. And so whereas in Istdp, we would see guilt as being at the bottom of the triangle, it is a core affect, characteristic of the species. In affect phobia, Lee McCullough sort of put together anxiety, guilt, and shame over on the anxiety pole because she thought these were, quote, inhibitory affects, and if I understand her right, something to kind of relinquish or get over. And so that is very, very different than the way that we would think about it in Istdp. Since, again, guilt and shame are core affects that have been selected for, they do have an adaptive value. They also can be defended against, right, in ways that cause a lot of problem. So it's not the guilt and shame that's the problem, it's the defense against it. Rationalizing, justifying, making excuses, blaming somebody else, or excessively attacking and punishing the self while not doing anything to actually correct the mistake. So, one other thing I would say about shame in ISTDP is that when it comes up in a therapy session, we would generally consider that a defense because it almost always comes up around, let's say we're pressing the person for closeness, for engagement. They're sitting there, but they're kind of beating around the bush. They're avoiding your eyes. And you're saying, it looks like something's up here. I mean, you're here, but you're avoiding my eyes. You're not getting down to speaking specifically what's going on. And then I'd say, well, there's something I'm really ashamed of. I don't want to open up, right? So the shame response tends to be like looking down, avoiding eye contact. And in therapy, that's always a defense. It's a resistance to opening up and addressing these difficult, painful feelings that we're actually there to look at. And so we wouldn't really encourage somebody to sit with that and feel it and so on, but actually to reveal what it is that they are feeling shame about so they can get some help with it. So again, this is a very complex topic. I mean, I could do a whole workshop on it. This was just some brief thoughts. Wanted to get back to the person who had asked the question. And please feel free to leave comments or questions, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.